This is Hercules. Hercules was the greatest hero of Greece. He was thought of as the strongest and bravest man on earth. He considered himself equal to a god, which is justified by his heroic actions. He maintained a perfect confidence that couldn't be defeated, just like himself. Any battle or fight he partook in, he won. The only force that was strong enough to defeat him was a supernatural magic from the gods. Hercules was born in Thebes and was the son of Amphitryon, a distinguished general. It is believed Hercules became inspired by his father's great feats. Hercules first appeared in Greek mythology in 5th century BC myths. Great care was taken into his education, despite his lack of thought later in life. Unlike Theseus, the Athenian version of Hercules, he didn't factor intelligence into his decisions. His intelligence wasn't strong, nor was his control over his emotions. Hercules was a very skilled and strong fighter, with training in wrestling to diving. After hearing of Hercules' incredible strength, he was given a task to fight and conquer the Menians. The citizens of Thebes rewarded him with Princess Megara's hand in marriage. He loved her so much, yet his emotions were extremely sensitive and often would make him act recklessly. The outbursts were sometimes fatal, killing innocent bystanders. Hercules was aware of his flaws and would accept any punishments without any refusal. In one of his rages, influenced by Hera, he killed his wife, Megara, and his 3 children. He then contemplated suicide, but was stopped by a cousin and friend, Theseus.
The oracle Delphi told Hercules that in order to reach a purified life, he must search for his cousin, King Eurystheus of Mycenae, and do whatever he was told to do. Under the influence of Hera, Eurystheus had Hercules complete 12 tasks that were almost impossible. His journeys to complete these were known as the 12 labors. His first labor was to kill the lion of Nemea, an animal that couldn't be defeated with any weapon. Therefore, Hercules had to choke it. Hercules choked the life out of the lion, completing his first task. He then ventured back to Mycenae to receive his new order. Eurystheus then obeyed him to kill the 9-headed creature, the Hydra, that resided in Lerna. The Hydra had one immortal head among the 8 other heads, and every time Hercules severed a head, 2 would grow back. In order to kill the savage monster, Hercules had to sear the neck with the burning brand while he was slicing off their heads. To dispose of the immortal head, Hercules concealed it underneath a large rock. The next order was to capture and return an animal sacred to Artemis, a stag with horns of gold. It took him over a year to imprison the stag due to the fact that the animal must return alive. Upon Hercules' return, Eurystheus had him travel to Mount Erymanthus to seize a great boar. After a long chase, the boar was fatigued and Hercules trapped it in snow. His next step in the search for purification was to clean the Augean stables in a day. The stables had not been cleaned in years and contained thousands of horses and cattle. Hercules was actually quite clever and redirected 2 rivers to flow through the stable and flush it clean. Subsequently, he was off on a new labor, which was to drive away the Stymphalian birds. These birds were a plague sent to the people of Stymphalis due to their enormous population. He was aided by Athena to take down the birds, and he succeeded by shooting them as they flew into the sky. The 7th labor was to capture a bull given to King Minos as a present from Poseidon. Hercules trapped it and then sailed back to Eurystheus to receive his next order. He was then sent to Thrace to capture the man-eating mares of King Diomedes. He single-handedly took down King Diomedes and drove out the mares. The 9th labor was to steal Hippolyta's girdle. She was the queen of the Amazons and was kind enough to hand over the girdle, but Hera intervened once more. She made the members of the Amazon think that Hercules was going to steal their queen. They then revolted against Hercules. Impulsively, he killed Hippolyta, fought off the others, and returned with the girdle.
It was the most difficult mission yet. After his return, Eurystheus sent Hercules on yet another task. He was to bring back a cattle with 3 bodies, named the Geryon, from Erythea. On the way to capture the cattle, Hercules created a monument for himself that consisted of 2 pillars that are now known as Gibraltar and Ceuta. Once he collected the cattle, he traveled back to Eurystheus to receive his next task. Hercules was supposed to collect the golden apples of Hesperides. He unfortunately did not know the location of the apples. Hercules asked for Atlas's help in finding the apples due to the fact that Hesperides was Atlas's daughter. In return, Hercules would bear the world on his shoulders during Atlas's vacancy. Atlas returned with the apples and tried to deceive Hercules by having him carry the world forever. Despite Hercules' unintelligence, he cleverly tricked Atlas by asking Atlas to hold the sky while he put a pad on his shoulder. Atlas gave in and Hercules fled. His last labor was the most difficult of all. It was to get Cerberus from the underworld. Hades allowed him to take Cerberus back up to Eurystheus, but Eurystheus quickly had Hercules return him to Hades. When Hercules visited the underworld, Hercules rescued his friend Theseus from the chair of forgetfulness. This was his last and final labor.
When all the labors were completed, and all amends were made for the murder of his wife and children, Hercules was still not at peace. Adventures and fights as challenging as the 12 labors continued. He fought the river god Achelous, who loved a maiden Hercules now wanted to marry. But like many, Achelous did not want to fight. Hercules did many other great deeds, such as saving maidens at Troy, as well as rescuing Prometheus by killing the eagle that hunted him. Although he seems heroic, some of his actions, like killing bystanders with the accidental thrust of his hand, and killing a good friend to avenge an insult made by the father, prove he is flawed. Another example of one of Hercules' rampages is when Hercules was with his last mortal wife, Deianira, but at the same time was madly in love with Iole, the princess of Lydia. One day, Hercules and Deianira were crossing a river when the centaur Nessus, who acted as a ferryman, insulted Deianira, causing her to shriek. Hercules then shot Nessus, fatally injuring him. Before dying, Nessus told Deianira to take some of his blood as a love potion against Hercules, in case he ever loved another woman more than her. When Deianira discovered the affair between Iole and Hercules, she covered his robe with the centaur's blood to make him fall madly in love with her again. As he dressed himself in the robe, he had great pain and went on another murdering rampage, killing the servant who gave him the robe. Deianira immediately committed suicide after she had discovered the result of what she had done. The best illustration of Hercules showing his true self is the story of Admetus and his wife Alcestis. The story goes that Admetus discovered he was at the end of his life thread and was going to die unless he found a replacement. His wife offered herself and was set to die that night. Hercules, who was on his way to Thrace to complete his 8th labor, stopped at Admetus's house to sleep. Had Hercules known that Alcestis had died, he would have wanted to leave out of respect, so Admetus told Hercules that a stranger had died. Hercules stayed and became intoxicated, and when he finally found out Admetus's wife had died, he immediately felt guilty and ashamed for getting so drunk. When Admetus returned home, he found Hercules standing with Alcestis beside him. Hercules had fought death to bring back Admetus's wife, demonstrating his persistence and confidence despite his stupidity and showing desire to make amends no matter the cost. Hercules, then feeling ready to die, ended his life by going to death instead of death coming to him. Hercules asked his follower Philoctetes to create a fire that would kill him, letting Hercules to ascend to heaven. There he made amends to Hera, married her daughter Hebe, and the newlyweds resided in heaven and rested in peace eternally with the gods.